Oh, you get to my age where you can't sit for that long. Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell Smith, and today I am walking you through digital marketing tips for psychotherapists in Ontario. Now, psychotherapists in Ontario are heavily regulated by the CRPO, the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario. And when you are part of a regulated profession, like psychotherapists, like social workers, you have a lot of rules, and especially a lot of rules around advertising and marketing. So, I read through all the rules so that you don't have to. Please note, you should still read the rules. And I'm going to give you digital marketing tips that are compliant with the rules. Now, before we actually get into anything, this is your legal reminder to read the rules, that everything you do is your choice, to consult with the college, to consult with a lawyer before deciding to do anything. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things business, higher ed, mental health, and life. So, I did a video just like this, but for the Ontario social workers, and in the same way, I'm going to start with the rules that you absolutely cannot break, the rules that you absolutely must follow, and then I'm going to give you my tips. So, let's start with the rules that you absolutely must follow first. First, you must present verifiable factual information. If you make any claim about anything, it has got to be verifiable. So calling yourself a psychotherapist, you've got to be able to verify that you went to school and you are a registrant. Or if you say you specialize in trauma, you've got to be able to say, like, here's my certification or here's where I studied it. Or if you say CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy is good for intrusive thoughts, you've got to be able to have evidence of it. Next, you've got to make sure that paid ads, so think like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, that they are easily identifiable as paid ads. Now, please note, most platforms, when you sponsor content, when it's paid, it has a clear marker, so it's pretty easy. But this is maybe more for like subtle places. So if you are running a display ad, so you have an ad that shows up on a random blog page that people went from Instagram to that page, if your advertisement is there still has to be some kind of indicator that it's a paid advertisement. Next, you got to make sure that if someone advertises for you on your behalf, that they also follow these rules. A really easy example of this is directories. So if someone lists your business in their directory, you got to make sure they follow the rules. A lot of directories you'll be filling out the information on. So like think like Psychology Today, which is, we'll talk about that and why that's a great idea, but you control most of that. But say you apply and someone says, okay, we'll take your information, we'll put it on our directory. You got to make sure that they follow these rules as well. Next, and tied to a couple tips we've already made, only advertise areas that you are able to work or things that you are able to work on that you have training on. Basically, don't say that you're a specialist in something or that you're able to do something if you haven't received training in it. Because if someone needs you to verify that you have specialized training, you have to be able to. Next, if in your practice you offer services that aren't just psychotherapy, you have to specify which services are psychotherapy and which ones are not. So, for example, I already do trainings and just general information trainings on things like emotions or mental health literacy. If I were a registered psychotherapist, I would have to say that, like, if you come to therapy with me, that is a service that is the controlled active psychotherapy. But if you come to one of my workshops on Emotions 101, that is not psychotherapy. You are not receiving psychotherapy. So you have to delineate the differences. Next, you have to use in your advertisements the name that is listed on the registry. So I'm going to use my own name for an example because it makes an easy case study. My actual name is Tim Campbell Smith. So I would register as Tim Campbell Smith. But sometimes people get my name wrong and they just write Tim Campbell. I couldn't create social media channels where it only ever says Tim Campbell because that is not the name that would be in the registry. Whatever name you have public facing in your advertisements must match the name in the registry. The final rule that you absolutely must follow, and I'm going to consult my notes because I'm going to get this right, is you must name your title on your channels. So think like your website and your social media. And they have rules for how it must be written. It must include registered psychotherapist or RP. You have to type out registered psychotherapist qualifying or RP bracket like qualifying, or registered psychotherapist brackets temporary or RP temporary. With these, you have to, if you're qualifying, if you're temporary, you have to fully spell it out. And what I really want to get at, and it actually says in the practice notes from the college, you can't write RPQ or RPT. You have to explain what the Q or what the T means. Now, let's get into what you absolutely cannot do. These are the rules you cannot break. Number one, you cannot solicit reviews. You cannot actively solicit reviews. Think Google, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can't, I tell my other clients, my other business owners this, to send your Google review link to a client, say, click this link, please write me a review. Psychotherapists are not allowed to do this. With that, you can't also use the review. So, and we will talk about this as a strategy, because you technically can have the ability to receive reviews up, and people could write you a review. Let's say they do. You can't then go use that, turn it into a graphic, turn it into a social media post. You can't use the review. You cannot promise a result that you cannot deliver on. This is why words like cure and treat, you have to be so incredibly careful with. I would actually, as a risk-averse person, I would say don't ever use those words. In psychotherapy and counseling, don't ever use the words cure or treat. It's dangerous, it's risky, yikes. Next, you cannot compare yourself to any other registrant. And there's actually a very subtle way that people do this and get in trouble for it. So think words like best or superior. So saying, you know, if I were to say, I'm the best psychotherapist in Hamilton, Ontario, best makes a comparison to other registrants, that I am better than the others. That is a comparison to another registrant, to another psychotherapist. That's not allowed. Next, you cannot use fear. You cannot use fear, saying things like, come to counseling so that you won't go broke and lose your job. No, 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 no. No using fear. Next, you cannot list unrelated educational credentials to your psychotherapy practice. So I'm going to make up this dramatic example just to really get the point across, but you can get a bachelor's of landscape architecture from the University of Guelph. Let's say you go and do your bachelor's of landscape architecture, you do a couple psychology courses to fulfill your prerequisites, and then you go to Athabasca University, you get your master's of arts in counseling, and you become a registered psychotherapist. You wouldn't be able to claim or talk about your bachelor's of landscape architecture or that you studied landscape architecture when talking about your psychotherapy practice, because the two are wildly unrelated. You cannot mislead or speak in half or part truths or lie. You cannot pressure someone into working with you. Oh, here's a funny one. You cannot use the title doctor if you have a doctorate. And please note, this actually doesn't come down directly from the College of Psychotherapists. This actually comes from the Regulated Health Professions Act. There are only a few different professions where they can actually use the title doctor when they have a doctorate. Audiologists, fun fact, are also not allowed to do this. So when they have the doctor of audiology or whatever, they're also not able to say doctor. So even if you have a doctorate in psychology or counseling or whatever, you're not able to use the title doctor. And finally, you are not allowed to use the college, and I'm talking about the College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario, you're not allowed to use their logo in your own advertising for your own gain. Finally, and this came up a few ways in rules that things you shouldn't do, things you must do, and I want you to just be really careful of the gray zone of using AI, artificial intelligence, or large language models. For today's video, I read all the rules. I then used my 8+ years of consulting experience in digital marketing to come up with all these suggestions. And then at the end of that process, I compared what I came up with against what AI came up with. In this case, I used ChatGPT. ChatGPT recommended digital marketing strategies that are blatantly non-compliant with the college's rules. So you've got to be careful, because AI, when using it for content ideas, for competitor research, for whatever, may suggest things that are non-compliant with the college. So be careful using AI in your marketing. That said, that's a great segue to get into, now we can talk about, here are the actual strategies and tips that you can use as a psychotherapist in Ontario to grow your business. Number one, golden rule, starting with the obvious, have a website. have a website. In the digital marketing world, I kind of compare it to, I compare everything to real estate. So having a website is like having a home you own. You own the land, you own the house. It's better than renting. It's better than getting a billboard on the side of the road or like a billboard on top of a taxi. And then the other reason why I so passionately recommend having a website is because that leads to other digital marketing strategies. One, play with your keywords. Websites get found based on keywords. A golden rule, and I taught my marketing students this, is that what people must search for must exist. So you have to place it on your website. Here's some keyword categories that I recommend unique to psychotherapists. One are populations that you have worked with. Because again, you can't say that you specialize in a certain population if you haven't done additional training and can prove it. But you can talk about populations you've worked with. So think about the demographics of the clients you've ever worked with, and you can name those demographics. Next, you can list the modalities that you have used or do use. As mental health literacy increases and people learn more and more about mental health, about therapy, about the therapeutic process, some people gravitate to different modalities and will search that out. The most recent one that I've been seeing a lot of on both Google through search and through TikTok in particular is EMDR. People saying like, I want a therapist who offers EMDR. So they'll search for that word. You have to have it on your website to get found for it. Next is a keyword to include is your location for a physical office and or your virtual locale of where you offer services. So if you offer virtual services throughout all of Ontario, you want to use like the word Ontario or Ontario, Canada. If you have a physical office, use the location and the locations around it. Next are any keywords related to you, because often people will look for therapists like them or who fit a specific demographic. So think looking for a therapist who's a man, a woman, male, female, gay, bisexual, queer, poly, disabled, autistic, you name it. Next, with your website, you can also write blogs. Now, you've got to make sure to cite your sources because everything you say has to be factually accurate and has to be based, but write blogs. You can also create a Google business listing. This is not only good for SEO or search engine optimization, but this does also open the opportunity if someone does want to write a review. Again, you cannot solicit that review, but if they want to leave it of their own volition and they find it on their own, they can. Again, I will drive it home. Don't solicit those reviews. Don't ask for those reviews. Don't look for them. Don't use them. My next digital marketing trick, use any social media platform of your choosing. I've worked with enough and had enough clients that were psychotherapists, social workers, and done trainings. And this is a very common question, which is, which social media platform should we use? Any of them will work. Almost any platform can be good for psychotherapy, except for two. One is Pinterest, which breaks my heart because I love Pinterest so much. Pinterest just doesn't really work because it's so hard to geo-target organic content. It's a little bit easier to do like paid. You can direct where your ads go, but it's just, there's almost no local focus on Pinterest. The other platform, and I would actually be so bold to say that as a psychotherapist, you should never, ever, ever use is Snapchat. Because those messages disappear after opening, it opens a floodgate and the opportunity for people to make accusations and say that you posted things or you sent them things that were inappropriate or unbecoming or just generally not approved upon by the college. And it just opens so many problems. So just don't use Snapchat. Don't use Snapchat from a legal perspective, but don't use Pinterest from a logistics perspective. But otherwise, any social media platform works. Professionals, people who make money, they're on LinkedIn. And a lot of people are on Instagram and using it for a lot of different things. Facebook is very popular, and then that opens up the possibility for ads, which we'll talk about. Lots of people are on Twitter and could use therapy. So really, almost any social media platform works. With social media, I will also say use organic and use paid. So paid is anything that you put money into and to get, seen by as many people as possible. Organic is anything that you just post or do on your own without money involved. Speaking of money being involved, run paid ads. Google, social, you name it, as long as it says sponsored. Social media is becoming much more like a pay-to-play game. Businesses, and when you list it as a business account, it's going to reach less people. So run paid ads. And again, just something generic. I would say keep it as simple, not quite generic, but like not terribly bold. So it's just say like, hey, my name is Tim. For example, I would say like, hey, I'm Tim. I'm a psychotherapist. If you want to learn more about me or book in to work with me, here's my link. Or, hey, my name is Tim. I'm a psychotherapist. Click this link and follow me. Next, I want you to use directories, ideally online directories and that have lots of web traffic. So think things like Psychology Today, your local chamber of commerce. Oh, my next digital marketing strategy, and this works really well, I think, for psychotherapists, is engage, interact with other people. So often we talk about like what we create or what we post, but you can just interact with other people. Because remember, social media is a technological extension of yourself. So go comment on posts, go follow people, go like respond to their Instagram stories or their TikTok stories. Just remember, engagement doesn't include likes. Liking posts does not count as engagement. People tend to get a lot of those notifications. They're easy to manipulate. So you're going to get their attention more and more in a way that they welcome if you comment, if you follow, if you DM them. My next tip is to do email marketing. Collect those emails. Again, collecting emails kind of has to be passive, a little bit like reviews. You can post and say like, sign up for emails here, but you can't coerce people. You can't force them. You can't use fear. But when you collect emails, you can use it for custom audiences. When you run paid ads, you can actually send emails. I would say when you send emails though, keep your email marketing to like 1 email per month. Normally I tell clients like 1 email per month, 2 if you have something like really special to say. But like psychotherapists, we don't really do sales, we don't really do discounts. So maybe if there's a special announcement, you might do a second one, but otherwise keep it to generally 1 email per month. And again, avoid like the pressure to sell. Email marketing is a great place for selling. People buy more from email marketing than they do social media on average. I like a gentle like if line. So if you need a space to talk, I'm here. Here's my booking link. Last couple of tips. First one is use offline opportunities, so things in real life, and translate it to digital. So like events, especially if you're speaking, offering like webinars, seminars, networking opportunities, or if you're going to networking events, so connecting with people on social media and then connecting with them online. So one trick that I use, rather than exchanging business cards, I will actually, and what I'll do is I'll hold out my phone so it's a visual cue for them, is I'll say like, what's the best social media for us to connect on? And then I'll connect with them that way rather than exchanging business cards. So I've taken this offline event and I've given it like an online counterpart. And finally, and this is my favorite digital marketing tip, and I'm going to give you an example specific to psychotherapists in Ontario. Find what others are doing and don't do it. Do something else. So in my research for this video, I was looking up different psychotherapist websites. And one thing I noticed is almost every single psychotherapist I found uses mostly stock photos. In fact, I would say the only, I think, original photos I saw on anyone's website were photos of the therapists, of the practitioners. Sorry, nope, that's a lie. I did see 2 clinics where they were photos of the clinics, but otherwise, like, it's all stock photos. People can usually tell when something is a stock photo, and original photos get better engagement and build deeper trust. So create more original media. Rather than using stock photos, create original photos, put those on your website, and then use those keywords for your SEO. But the big idea here is find what others are not doing and do it, or find what they're all doing and do something else entirely. And those are my big digital marketing tips for psychotherapists in Ontario. Again, I've got to stress that, like, follow the rules. Whatever the rules are, whatever you're told not to do or to do, consult those, follow those, talk to the college, talk to a legal professional before you do anything. Otherwise, comment below any other digital marketing strategies that you've ever used that have worked, and we can kind of create a wisdom space together. As always, make sure you like and subscribe for all things business, higher ed, mental health, and life. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.